Imagine standing on a vast open grassland 12,800 years ago. The air is crisp and invigorating, carrying the scent of pine and distant snow. Before you, herds of woolly mammoths graze peacefully in valleys that stretch endlessly toward the horizon. The world feels alive, vibrant, and full of promise. It was a time of hope, of expanding territories and blooming human innovation. Groups were settling down, experimenting with the first seeds of agriculture and crafting precision tools that would redefine their survival. But then, without warning, the rhythm of the planet faltered. The world stopped. In a geological heartbeat, the steady thaw was replaced by a terrifying, icy grip. Global temperatures plummeted, and the landscape was thrust into a brutal, thousand-year winter. This is the haunting mystery of the Younger Dryas, a climate event that defies our conventional models and challenges everything we thought we knew about the stability of our ancient past. Why did the climate system lurch into reverse just as the long nightmare of the Ice Age seemed to be finally ending? Was it a massive flood from a vanished glacial lake, a fragmented comet impact, or something entirely unknown? Today, we peel back the layers of time, frozen in ancient ice cores and written in the silent records of the rocks, to uncover the night the world changed forever. Get comfortable, because we are traveling back to the very edge of the abyss, to a time when humanity stood on the precipice of a new era, only to be plunged back into the shadow of the Great Chill. Before the world turned cold, there was a fleeting golden age. Roughly 14,700 years ago, Earth entered a period of rapid and transformative healing. The relentless grip of the Ice Age began to loosen, not gradually, but with dramatic, unmistakable force. In just a few decades, temperatures in the northern regions leaped upward by as much as 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Glaciers that had stood unmoved for millennia finally began their retreat, collapsing into warming oceans at an astonishing rate. This was not a moment of destruction. It was a spectacular rebirth. As the ice pulled back, it unveiled vast swathes of land that had remained hidden beneath a frozen shroud for over 100,000 years. Life exploded into these liberated territories with an enthusiasm that is almost impossible to comprehend. Within mere decades, tundra grasslands transformed into rich, productive mammoth steppes, thriving environments teeming with a density of life that would make our modern savannas seem empty. Mammoth herds, numbering in the thousands, followed the retreating ice northward. Giant ground sloths, enormous bison, and wild horses flourished, creating a thriving natural paradise. For the human societies of that time, this was a moment of limitless opportunity. It must have felt like discovering a new world over and over again. A time of plenty where the earth finally provided for its inhabitants. Evolution itself seemed to kick into high gear, with species rapidly colonizing and adapting to these fresh, fertile landscapes in a real-time dance of survival and growth. As the climate warmed, humanity didn't just survive. We began to transform. In North America, the Clovis people emerged as masters of this new landscape. They developed spear points that were not merely tools, they were precision engineering. With a unique fluted channel designed for perfect balance and aerodynamics, these points allowed hunters to dominate the mammoth herds with unprecedented efficiency. This was a technological revolution, spreading across a continent with lightning speed. Simultaneously, across the ocean in the Levant, the Natufian people were initiating a shift that would rewrite the human story. They stopped wandering. They began to build. Houses with stone foundations, plastered floors, and dedicated pits for storing grain appeared in the archaeological record. They weren't just sheltering from the elements, they were planting roots. These early experiments in cultivating wild cereals were the first tentative steps toward agriculture. In Europe, the retreat of the ice allowed people to emerge from the protective caves. They built open-air settlements, forged long-distance trade networks, and exchanged amber from the Baltic and seashells from the Mediterranean. We were no longer just reacting to nature, we were beginning to orchestrate it. Everything pointed toward a future of continued growth, stability, and discovery. The world was opening up, and humanity was ready to claim its place as the architect of its own destiny. Then, without any warning, the rhythm of the planet faltered. The world, which had been healing for over 1,000 years, simply stopped. In a geological heartbeat, the steady, predictable thaw was replaced by a terrifying, icy grip. Global temperatures plummeted, and the landscape was thrust into a brutal, 1,000-year winter. This was not a gradual shift. It was an abrupt descent into chaos. In some regions, the mercury dropped by as much as 27 degrees Fahrenheit in mere years. It was as if the Earth itself had hit a metaphorical wall. The glaciers that had been steadily retreating suddenly surged forward, reclaiming the land. Ice sheets that were supposed to be dying began to grow with hungry intensity. Communities that had spent generations building permanent stone foundations found themselves facing a winter that refused to end. The spring grew late, then later, until it barely arrived at all. Summer became a fleeting, ghostly interlude between 10-month winters. The promise of the warming climate vanished, replaced by the harsh, unrelenting reality of a world plunging back into shadow. It was the birth of the Younger Dryas, a climate event so rapid, so severe, and so bizarre that it defies conventional explanation. We were standing on the precipice of a new era, only to be violently shoved back into the ice. How do we know this happened with such terrifying precision? The Earth itself keeps a diary, and the ice is its most loyal scribe. If you travel to the heart of Greenland, to a place where white stretches endlessly in every direction, you will find scientists drilling into the past. They extract long, frozen cylinders of ice, bottled time from over 12,000 years ago. Each annual layer is a page, darker in winter, lighter in summer. But deep down, the weight of ages compresses these pages until they are paper-thin. Within these layers lie tiny air bubbles, time capsules containing the atmosphere exactly as it was when the snow fell. When we analyze these bubbles, the Younger Dryas reveals itself like a scar. Methane levels, linked to wetlands and life, plummet by 30% in a few decades. Oxygen isotopes, the planet's natural thermometer, show a staggering plunge in temperature. The data is so precise and so rapid that scientists initially refused to believe their own findings. They suspected errors, calibration drifts, or faulty instruments. But the story was the same in every core, from every site. It wasn't just the ice. Lake sediments and ocean floor records sang the same chilling chorus. Pollen grains in ancient bogs disappeared, replaced by the seeds of Arctic flowers that should not have been there. It was a planetary reset, a silent, frozen record of the moment the world lost its warmth. If the planet truly slammed on the brakes, we have to ask, where was the emergency pedal? For many climate scientists, that pedal wasn't in the sky, but hidden in a massive, vanished inland sea that once covered the heart of North America. Imagine a landscape ruled not by farms, but by a wall of ice 2 miles thick, the Laurentide ice sheet. South of this frozen behemoth, everything it melted formed a reservoir so immense it dwarfs our Great Lakes. Lake Agassiz. This was an inland sea, a cold reservoir held back by unstable dams of ice and sediment. As the climate warmed, meltwater poured into this basin year after year, building up unimaginable pressure. Then the dam failed. It wasn't a gentle spill. It was a catastrophic outburst. In a geologically instantaneous moment, tens of thousands of cubic kilometers of fresh water burst forth, rushing into the Atlantic. This fresh water acted like a cap on the ocean's engine. The Atlantic conveyor belt, the system that carries tropical heat north, relies on salty, dense water sinking. But a giant lens of fresh water diluted the salt, making the surface too light to sink. The pump stalled. The heat stopped flowing. And Northern Europe, along with the rest of the hemisphere, was plunged into a deep, dark chill. It is a story of gravity, water, and a vulnerable ocean engine. While the melting lakes offer a plausible explanation, some researchers argue that the answer lies not in the depths of our oceans, but in the vast expanse above. By the early 2000s, scientists were troubled by a thin, dark layer of soil found in sites across North America, the Younger Dryas boundary. It was filled with charcoal, hints of widespread fire, and exotic materials like nanodiamonds and platinum, elements far too rare to be earthly. This led to a bold, controversial proposal. 12,800 years ago, Earth wasn't just cooling, it was under attack. Imagine a fragmented comet drifting through the dark void, silently approaching our sun. As it drew near, tidal stresses shattered it into a swarm of debris. Instead of one single impact, Earth faced a shotgun blast of fire from the sky. Massive air bursts detonated over the ice sheets, each releasing energy comparable to nuclear weapons. These explosions vaporized ice, ignited continent-wide wildfires, and lofted a curtain of ash and soot into the stratosphere. This impact winter could have supercharged the cooling, darkening the sun and resetting the climate in a matter of days. While the theory remains fiercely debated, the presence of these extraterrestrial fingerprints in the sediment suggests that our ancestors might have witnessed the sky itself catching fire. It is a terrifying thought that our fate and the fate of the climate was decided by a silent visitor from the stars. As the world lurched into the grip of the Younger Dryas, a massive silence began to spread across the plains. Before this abrupt cooling, the late Ice Age was not a quiet place. It was loud. The thundering of hooves, the crackling of tusks against ice, and the low resonant rumble of herds so vast they pulled the horizon along with them. But over a geologically brief moment, that sound began to fade. By the end of the 1,000-year freeze, North America's megafauna had been gutted. Roughly 35 genera, entire categories of large mammals, vanished. Mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, and saber-toothed cats, all gone. Some point to climate stress, arguing these specialists couldn't cope with the sudden collapse of their habitats. Others point to us, the new predators on the scene, equipped with precision tools and coordinated strategies. The truth likely lies in a lethal convergence, a changing climate that fragmented habitats, coupled with human hunting pressure on already stressed populations. Perhaps disease or the aftermath of cosmic events played a role too. Whatever the cause, the landscape was permanently rewritten. The ghost work of these ecosystem engineers, who once trampled saplings and shaped grasslands, slowly disappeared. In their wake, the world became quieter, more forested, and irrevocably changed. The giants had departed, leaving humans to navigate a new, more fragmented world. The Younger Dryas ended as abruptly as it began. Around 11,600 years ago, temperatures surged, the glaciers retreated for good, and the planet settled into the Holocene, a rare, stable plateau of climate that allowed human civilization to finally take root. but we carry the scars of that thousand-year winter in our collective history. It wasn't just a cold snap. It was a crucible that forged our resilience, our ability to adapt, and our deepest, most haunting stories. From the flood myths that echo in cultures across the globe, to the stone monuments like Göbekli Tepe, built by people who watched the world freeze and thaw, we are a species defined by what we survived. Today, as we study the ice and the sediment, we are not just looking at the past, we are looking into a mirror. The Younger Dryas serves as a sobering reminder of the planet's ability to rearrange its climate in a heartbeat. Our current stability, as secure as it feels, rests upon a delicately balanced system that can and has shifted before. We are children of a lucky interval, telling stories under a sky that has seen far stranger years. The mystery of the Younger Dryas remains open, a reminder that we are part of a long, restless song of ice, fire, and human ingenuity, forever unpicking and reweaving the tapestry of our own origins.